On today's episode, Steel Battalion, you broke my heart! Today's episode of New Challenger is brought to you by Jack Threads. Welcome to the show, I am Anthony. Guys, the new Steel Battalion came out, Steel Battalion, heavy armor. It's not good. Dudes, its hybrid controller Kinect gameplay was supposed to bring this deep and intricate control scheme to the Kinect, and early previews were super favorable. I got all excited about it, but the final product is like this gigantic jumbly mess, and it's getting terrible reviews, almost all the way across the board. Kotaku features editor Kirk Hamilton is with me here in the studio, and you've been watching the fallout from this thing. We were bamboozled, Kirk.
I think you're right. I think there was definitely some disparity between how the game seemed when we first played it and how it actually wound up being.
We were straight up hoodwinked. You went to the press events for this thing, right?
I did. I was at the Microsoft press event, so I wrote, I think, our first preview of this game in America when it was here.
So they sat us all down and they had us watching a guy at first playing this thing, and it just looked amazing. Mm-hmm. You're using the controller, and you're like, oh, I need to bring down my thing, and I need to load my guns, and I'm moving. And the thing is, it worked so well in the demos.
Well, I wasn't very good at it in the demo. I was actually really bad, so I was skeptical about that in my preview anyway. Like, I really sucked at this, and I left the door open for maybe you could get good at this, or maybe they'll clean up the controls a little bit. I think at the preview event that a big part of why people were into it was just because it was unlike anything else at that preview. And we knew all the other stuff. There was nothing else exciting. They didn't really show any Halo 4. So it was the only thing at the event that was like, what the hell is this? Like, it felt really crazy.
And then at PAX East, they had it set up on the floor, and something that everybody's sort of gone back and noticed, now with 2020 hindsight is, man, they set up that booth perfectly.
Right.
It was like Microsoft's booth was like this all-white booth, and everything was very spaced out, and they had you stand at like a perfect distance. But even still, I was like, I know that even in a perfect setup, the Kinect can be bad or it can be good. And this felt like it was gonna be good.
Well, it had this thing, like, it was hard, right? I mean, I died. It got embarrassing for me, like, with the PR guy there, like, trying to walk me through this demo. And, like, that game is really, really challenging. And there's all kinds of random crap that can happen to you at any time. You can die. And when a game's that hard, really, like, the thing that everyone really should have been aware of from the beginning is when the game's that hard, it needs to have consistent controls. Or it's just not going to be any fun.
Let's do this, Sarge. Our target is the antennas.
Yeah, exactly. And Steel Battalion's always been hard.
Right.
It's always been a series that's super complex. And so I didn't expect the control to be easy. I thought that it was going to take me time to get to wrap my head around it and get good at it. And what's funny is with a Kinect game especially, in the beginning you never know if the game is bad or if your setup is bad. And your thing as a player with a new control scheme is always like, you blame yourself first. You always go, I should just get better.
Right, or I should get a bigger apartment, which is a weird thing to kind of think about a game. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And so I think the biggest problem when this thing came into the actual world was, number one, nobody has that perfect Kinect department. And they wanted these kind of like pixel perfect, very timely interactions.
Well, and it was, like the cockpit of the VT, of the tank that you're in, has got so many little things on it. And then someone, I think it was maybe the joystick review, some reviewer pointed out that it's overly sticky, which I found when I was demoing it as well, is that you'll go to do something little, like you have to switch your firing mode at these little buttons.
Yes.
And your hand will hit the wrong button, and it's actually hard to get your hand out. Like, you commit to this tiny thing wrong, and then you can't uncommit from it. Meanwhile, you're taking fire in the game, any of a number of things is happening, and like.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is it wants you to be, it tries to overcorrect for your errors. A lot of the stuff is above your head, right? So you're hitting instruments and you're trying to bring down panels. And what I found is every time I did that, it was trying to close my view slit, which immediately makes you blind.
Right, and like that's the other thing, is that you're not just switching firing modes. Sometimes you're totally changing the nature of the game or doing something that is going to take you enough time to recover from that you're going to die.
And it's got to work. And one of the things that seemed like just so obvious to me was make that time important stuff that fiddly stuff the controller part,
Right.
and then make the big stuff the gestures. And I thought they were going to do that, and they flipped it.
Well, it's funny because I think the smart thing about the game and what's cool in general is this idea of using motion controls, to connect with the controller. But they didn't even give the option. Like, I mean, the controller doesn't do that much, if I remember correctly.
No, you're walking, you're shooting, basically.
Yeah, but the D-pad doesn't do anything, right? Like, you could have at least. I mean, I guess they wanted this pure experience, but man, like, give people the option if you want your game to be functional.
If your Switch is that tiny on the
Right.
screen, maybe just map it somewhere.
Yeah, like, and if you want to play hardcore mode, you
Yeah.
can if you want to get really, really good at it. But
yeah, so Steel Battalion, the bottom line with Steel Battalion is, I think, stay away, is I think what we're saying. But, the Kinect and all the kind of hybrid things they're trying to do with the Kinect, they've been really pushing it lately. And we want to talk about some of the Kinect's track record and where we think it's going to go in the future. But first, I wanted to thank Jack Threads for keeping the lights on in the studio this week. You guys have heard me talk about Jack Threads before. It is a members-only shopping club that offers street, skate, and surfwear brands at prices that will melt your brain. You want to look good without breaking the bank, they are the place to go. More importantly, they're the place to go if you are tired of wading through stores looking for the good stuff. They set up everything into different looks and styles and brands, and they make it super easy to find great stuff at up to 80% off store price. Highly recommend checking them out, and if you do, head to jackthreads.com/challenger to get totally free, instant access, and support the show at the same time. That is jackthreads.com/challenger. They have good stuff. So Kirk, this game was a wash. It's a wash.
I don't know, wash. I feel like
It's
a wash
It's done.
implies
It's
to me
over.
that
We're letting it's done.
We're not talking about.
We're not
done
talking
with
about it
Steel
anymore.
Battalion.
We're done.
It's over. We're done with it.
But they've been trying a lot of novel stuff with the Kinect. They showed off some preview of Splinter Cell stuff. Where it's going to be voice, you can yell at guards to kind of distract them, and we've seen things in Mass Effect. They're trying to turn it into a media player. What is working on the Kinect for you?
Well, it's funny, like the stuff that I mean, when it works, the voice stuff is cool.
Yeah.
I think it's funny because the big thing that was hyped with the Kinect was the camera, but the camera is not there yet. Like,
Right.
I think they need another version of it. Whatever the Xbox 720 Durango thing is,
Yeah.
like that needs some kind of more advanced Kinect. It's just faster and can track more things and is more accurate.
Do we feel like it's hardware? Do we feel like it's a mix of the hardware and whatever drivers are running it?
I think it's. I mean, I don't.
We are
yeah,
not.
I don't,
We are not the guys who would know.
Right, I'm not a tech master.
Yeah.
I would imagine that there is, that some of the PC version of Kinect can probably do some stuff that the Xbox version can't. Like,
Yeah.
That there's some software out there, but no, I think that it's also hardware. I mean, I get the sense that if they could make the games work better, they would. I don't think they're like doing it on purpose. Like
Yeah.
they must test these and kind of know, like, out in the wild, this thing doesn't work.
Yeah, and I hear developers talking about a lot of things that they do to kind of like trick the Kinect into making things happen.
Yeah, like it.
Double Fine with Happy Action Theater, which is one of the things that I do like about the
Yeah.
Kinect, but is not something that requires very precise control.
No, right, like,
They kind of tricked it into working with 4 players, even though it's built for 2. So I think people are getting clever, and it's just not. They're trying to make it work, and they just can't.
Yeah, well, if you have to work around the back of like the limitations of the
Yeah.
thing, but the voice stuff just works. I mean, like we were talking about Mass Effect. Like,
Yeah.
it's what's funny is it's not a function that I want in the game. Really, I mean, I feel kind of silly talking to my Xbox. Like, I'm good enough at Mass Effect that I can open doors for myself.
Right.
But it works. Like, it does work to talk to it. It actually works more consistently. And then when I'm watching Netflix, I like being able to tell it to pause. I find sometimes it doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
I'll just yell at it for a while. Which is always a weird experience, but
I found the same thing with Child of Eden too, that you did with Mass Effect, which is like Child of Eden worked, but didn't work as well as it would have with a controller.
yeah, my arms just got tired. I really liked Child of Eden. Like,
Yeah.
that was a rad game, a really cool experience, and it was a cool experience to play it with my body. Like to have the music really turned up and this whole like kind of synesthesia experience. But yeah, then I played it with the controller, and it's actually a pretty hard game.
Yeah.
And I found that I played it much better.
I
with the
think
controller.
they actually, like I noticed, and I don't know if this is 100% true, I'd have to look back into it, but I noticed that it gets a little easier when you choose Kinect mode. Like they throw fewer
changed
things
the way,
at you.
They changed the way the controls work.
Yeah.
I can't remember what exactly, but it's like the 2 things do something different.
So they actually kind of like dumbed it down a little to make it work, and I was
Which
still
you kind of would have to,
Yeah.
because it's just less precise.
Do you want them to keep pushing the Kinect? Do you want to see a new version of it? Are you still open to it?
Yeah, I think that the idea is cool. Like, I think that they hyped it so much, and everyone bought one. I mean, they sold how many of them when the thing came out? and you know, they still haven't been able to come up with anything for it. I'm not really sure that like the kind of video games that I want to play at the moment anyway really are going to use motion control.
Yeah.
But I'm all for like any kind of controller experimentation, you know, like I think, yeah, sure, like new ideas are always cool, and the Kinect is a cool core idea.
Yeah. I feel the same way. I want things like this to work. I want to believe in new technology because new technology is fun. I don't know what you guys think. Are you Kinect guys? Do you like motion control? Let us know down below in the comments how you feel about it. And Kirk, thank you so much for joining me once again, sir, in the studio.
It was totally my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Kirk is a features editor over at Kotaku, where he runs Kotaku Melodic, which I love. It's a Thursday afternoon block that's all about the intersection of music and gaming. Check it out over on Kotaku.com. And be sure to subscribe to us here at Rev3 Games for about 7 jillion gaming videos every single week. We do about 7 jillion. We're at youtube.com/Rev3Games, so subscribe there, and I will see you back here next week. This whole studio is operated by Kinect.
Yeah.
It goes down at any second.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you wave your arms.
I wave my arms, the cameras don't turn on.